All right, well, welcome everybody, and thanks for taking time out of the holiday to come together to help with this project for our second year osteopathic medical students at Unicom. This is going to be used for the geriatrics practicum, and I have sent you the prompts that you're going to respond to. I'll read each prompt before you start to respond, and I will ask us to start by doing the same icebreaker that I've had the students do prior to them listening to your discussion. So, does anyone have any questions before I start the icebreaker? Great, okay. Well, it's convention that we always go to the right.
I'm dealing out the cards.
So what I'm gonna ask you to do is say your name, say your age, as much as you're willing to share that, and then the prompt is as follows. What is your deal breaker for life being worth living? When will you know it is time for you to die? State your age and your name and your response, please.
Do you want last names too?
Nope,
Okay,
that would be a HIPAA problem.
I know, that's what I was thinking. My name is Jean, and I turned 70 in August, which doesn't seem like a big thing for some people, but it was big for me. It's like, Now, what was the rest of the problem? No.
What,
What's the deal breaker? For a long time, and in my advanced directives, I have said I didn't want to be, if I needed to be tube fed, but a bigger one than that is whether or not I was able to communicate to my caregivers, to my family members, my physician. I'm a retired speech pathologist, and I specifically wrote that, my husband and I both did, in our advanced directive, that we would want somebody who knew how to just see if I was cognitively with it or trying to interact with those around me.
thank you, Jean.
Thank you.
You're next.
Okay, I'm David, and I'm 82. It's hard to say what a deal breaker would be for me, but basically, I guess, in the largest sense, it would be that there was nothing left that I was interested in, or that was, keeping me active somehow in my mind. If I was in a nursing home, I don't know. I mean, I think you can,
Adapt.
you can adapt to your situation, and it's more a matter of your body giving out, I think, than your spirit.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So you have to acknowledge that at a certain point your body is giving out, and you sort of fight it as long as you can, and pretend it's not there, but it is, and just try to make the most of of what you have today. I mean, it'd be hard to say what a deal breaker would be. I've had friends with ALS, and one of them fought until the very end and was happy, really. Sue Gawler, and another guy I know was a real strong guy, and he said the heck with it, and he packed it in right off the bat. So it all depends on what you're interested in, and whether you can maintain it in terms of the fight to the finish with your body. So, I don't know.
Thank you,
I'm
David.
drifting off here.
No, it's good, very
Really
good, right.
My name is Margot. I am 65 years old. And I'd like to say that I think, as in a lot of situations, being diagnosed with whatever, it's really hard to know what that deal breaker is going to be until you're staring it right in the face.
Yeah.
But I can say right now pretty clearly that any sort of diagnosis which has me facing months of pain and suffering is a deal breaker for me. I'm not afraid of dying. I don't really want it to hurt. I'd like to go in my sleep. If I am incapacitated, not conscious, can't communicate, that's another deal breaker.
I always have to say to the students, dying in your sleep is not an option for this discussion because everybody would like to die in their sleep.
Right, so it's kind
It's
of
a
funny.
Russian roulette wheel, right?
I told a couple of people when I walked in that I just went and had breakfast, and they had the most amazing, appropriate saying on the wall, and it said, "So the trick in life is to die as young as possible, as late as possible." So I kind of like to go out being on top. And I will reiterate, I am not interested in pain of any kind. Okay? That would be me.
Thank you, Margot.
Yes. My name is Ann, and I'm 75 years old as of July. And I guess in thinking about the question, I'll go along with a lot of other things that have already been said. Long suffering, no way out, only one direction as things deteriorate, and there's only one way that it's going to go. Seems like a good opportunity to shorten the process for myself, and I'll also say for the people I love, my family, and that, you know, that is not what I want to inflict on them or myself. So I would factor that in. I guess added to that, if, you know, I love the fact that you mentioned spirit and body, the combination or the two. And, you know, the body has its own attrition, and the spirit, and I think if your spirit in the process of fighting takes such a heavy hit that you truly don't feel like yourself, that's a good time to also check out. Because again, I'll call it your legacy is what I consider your spirit. And that I'm also, I actually think there's something better beyond. I think that this is we're living the test. I think there's something beyond this that is better. So I'm not afraid of that, you know, and I also totally respect and love the people in my life. So for those reasons, I would say that those would be deal breakers. And so when your spirit is taking a hike, it's a good time to check out.
Thank you, Ann.
Yes.
I'm Peter, I'm 85 years old, and the deal breaker for me would be loss of cognition. The minute I feel that I'm losing my ability to think, I want to go.
Thank you, Peter.
My name's Mike. I'm 73, and listening to everybody here is pretty much a common thread. I've had family and friends that have left early and also in their hundreds. Again, when the cognitive issues start, that's a good time. When I can't get up in the morning and run my daily routine, whatever it might be at the time, or whatever comes into the future, nobody is going to know. So I'd like to think, as cavalier as it sounds, that I could be able to handle anything that comes, but we won't know. So when it happens, it happens. We have to make those decisions on the fly, so a lot like life.
Hmm.
So that's about it.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, well, there's a lot we can continue to say just about that. We could take up the whole hour, I can tell. Maybe we'll come back to it at the end. From here, I'd like to move on to the 3 prompts, and I want to start by sort of casting out the rules of the game here. And that is that we fully listen to each other And if someone has said something that and you've already demonstrated that you're doing that, and that is to sort of reflect what you've heard as you move on, sharing your point of view, so that it becomes sort of a well-woven story. Okay, so prompt 1 is as follows, and I am Phil Donahue, and probably none of you listening to this know who Phil Donahue was or is, but we all do. So I am fearful of dementia or any significant cognitive changes for myself or for those with whom I am close. And you feel so moved, you could share your perspectives or thoughts. And I'd be glad to read it 3 more times. Don't hesitate to ask.
Well, that's pretty much that was your point, pretty much, that,
Well, he didn't say fearful, though. I just want to clarify that.
I will say I'm scared to death
okay.
of cognition loss
Why, if you don't mind me asking?
because it's so important for me to be part of the family. And I just hate to lose the communication ability, the understanding, the caring that goes along with dementia.
But
Yeah.
how would you, the question I have is, how do you know that you're losing it? And how do you know when you've actually lost it?
You know when you're slipping from the ladder, and you definitely know when you're falling, right? Like,
Well, I don't know.
Depends on how quickly it
There was
happens.
a couple down east that killed themselves because they thought they just didn't have any, they were looking ahead. He
You mean
said,
the
I'm not gonna be
Nearings?
able
Are
to
you
play
talking about
steel
the
drums
Nearings?
anymore.
That's correct.
the
And
nearest?
she said, I'm worried because people in my family have had dementia. She didn't even have it, although she might have been, I don't know. It's not something that, one day you have it and the next day, one day you don't and the next day you do.
Yeah.
We're
Maribel?
well, I don't know, at my point, I'm slipping, I forget things.
You're slipping right now.
Come on.
No. Okay, so my comment to that, which is a really good point, how that's the big thing, like, and it goes along with what I just said, to go as young as possible, as late as possible, because we have our awareness, and what we're all talking about is loss of awareness.
Right.
So my response to your response is that, if you're living with somebody that knows you and loves you, we can be like, hey guy, I've asked you that question 5 times in the last 10 minutes, or, I think there would be signs of the beginning. Now, the real question is, to what degree do we draw the line and say that's the end?
Right.
And I can really understand that couple doing what they did.
Mhm.
And I'm just going to take a short little detour here. I believe in the great ability of us to put our animals to sleep so that we can end their suffering.
Yeah.
Okay? I think we can make decisions for ourselves based on, we are the decision makers. Maybe she did it too young. Maybe she didn't have dementia. Maybe she was quite sure she was getting it. But the point is, that was their decision.
She was resolved.
They were clear. They were super clear on what they did not want to have happen.
I think my children will tell me when I'm slipping.
Right. Right. That's what I was thinking.
Are they brave enough?
I think so.
Are they
Good.
close enough?
They're close enough in spirit and by telephone, even if not geographically.
I wasn't brave enough to say it to my mother. I was brave enough to help her die. I was brave enough to see that it was there. I was brave enough to intervene, but I was never brave enough to say it to her face.
Well, did she have dementia?
Yes.
Yeah. And she'd had it for a long time?
Well, it was sort of vascular dementia, which is insidious. It's very slow in its
Okay.
evolution. And I think, to everyone's point, when you're a couple, sometimes you make up each other's difference, and you're so used to, this is my husband, he's always been stubborn, then when something happens that one could categorize as stubborn, that is clearly, probably from an outsider's view, not stubbornness, it becomes, you know, it's like being farsighted. Is that it? It's like farsighted. The person's so close to you that you can't really
see it.
appreciate the changes that are happening.
Mm.
Just a question I had was, and I've known a lot of people who have gone in that, but there's all different kinds of dementia, and length of time and iterations of it that come. And I guess what keeps coming to mind is, you know, growing old and dying is a matter of letting go, and maybe within that letting go, even through a process like dementia, and obviously, you know, I mean, wandering away or things that are dangerous are another story. But I think there are things to be learned in the letting go, not just for yourself, but also for your family. And that is through the process, and obviously not the life-threatening ones, but the ones, you know, I've heard all sorts of things come from conversations with people who are, you know, early dementia or that are learning experiences, and also the great art of listening, which, you know, that's rather than being in control, you are letting go of that control, which is ultimately what you're going to have to do anyway, and handing it off
Yeah.
to your children or your family or whoever you have. And there's a lesson in that, which I think is, again, depending on the circumstances, obviously, but I think there's something to be said about not just pulling the plug, but taking the trip for a while for yourself and also for your loved ones, because I think sometimes good things do come out of that.
It makes me think of the word humility.
Yes, and that's a big one.
It's huge,
But if you don't have cognition,
right?
how do you recognize that or
No, that's a-
even portray it?
No, that's
If
a
you
good
don't-
point.
You don't get any feedback. I mean, the feedback that you're getting is,
But that's assuming you fall off the edge of the cliff versus
Yeah.
it's a process
Yeah.
that ultimately gets to the point where, you know, that it's not going to work anymore. But, you know, each one is individual. So if it were, you know, at the beginning stages, sometimes I do think that is the sort of humility piece, and also the letting go of control.
well, that's a very good point, I
And,
think.
you know, but each one is different, so you couldn't make a blanket statement about
Yeah.
either of those.
But-
Even if you've gotten to the point where cognitively you're not, you know,
In
you're not
control.
in control, and the humility and you still have your extended family, your caregivers, and even if you've passed the point of gleaning any great lessons, your family, your children, you know, it's a gift to them.
I think so.
I think
It's
it
a gift.
requires a lot of
Definitely.
conversation with those kids early on.
I
so
was
that
going
you
to say, what's
prime
the
them.
gift
You
to
prime them
not to not call it quits too early when you've been maybe diagnosed with dementia? Is that what,
Yeah,
just to go along?
to allow the family
For a while.
to have the experience and process.
So my point is that I've got a mother-in-law in the hospital with dementia. This is not a gift. Okay, this is like really sad. It's really sad.
But did she have dementia before she ended up in the hospital? It was a process, I'm assuming. It wasn't one day she had dementia. She
Well,
was
yeah, it
tending
was a
toward-
slow decline.
Yeah, a slow
Right.
decline. So,
Right.
you know, obviously at that
But-
point.
But my point is that slow decline eventually gets to a place where you can't do anything about
Right.
it.
Well,
And then
that's-
you're talking about years
Well, that's
You
no
can.
good
and
at all.
money.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
money.
I
Oh.
hate to bring it up.
Oh, no, it's a
It's
good one.
just not a good journey. I don't see
Yeah,
that as a good thing.
Well, I'm on the other side of two parents with dementia, my father with Alzheimer's, my mother with, I don't know if it was vascular, and I have 3 sisters, and we all live spread out, and they were like 7 hours from my parents who refused to move. And so what it took for us to allow them to stay in their home and come up with some sort of ongoing daily revision of supports, and it was a gift to my sisters and I, and just the love and the cooperation and the sometimes it wasn't very pretty.
No.
One of the
And-
signs of advanced dementia that I saw in my father, who died of dementia, is his development of agitation,
Oh,
aggression,
Mm.
and depression.
Well, that's too late then.
And that is the point at which I want to go.
Oh, I'm with that
So you
too.
would stop eating and you would stop drinking, is that what your thoughts are, Peter?
I would ask for assisted death.
You would, because you live in Maine,
I can,
yes, and you'd need 2 physicians to agree to that.
yes, and I think I could get 2 physicians to agree
Easily,
to
I'm
that.
sure of that, yeah. Those physicians would have to be working in a private practice, because unless, it's very hard to find a physician that would be part of Maine Health that would participate in that, or Northern Lights that wouldn't participate in that. And I think, again, that's something you figure out now.
Yeah,
Because-
if you're already partially demented, how are you gonna, or unless you've got an advocate that's gonna
Right.
present your case to these
Right.
2 doctors, I mean,
Yeah.
how's that gonna go forward?
Right, and I don't know the answer to this, but there are there's a piece of the advanced directive, or a type of an advanced directive that is for addressing cognitive changes, so that you could put your statements in that in advance. And so I think that, we're hearing some really good points, different perspectives about this. So Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia. Vascular dementia is the second most common, and Lewy bodies being the third most common. Many people have what's called mixed dementia, because of course we have a lot of things going on in our body. It's not just so linear as it gets described to us. But having the discussion with their family, because not every family can do it. Not every family needs to do it. Not every family gets bound together in a loving, long-lasting way. And that's not something you can predict. I think talking to physicians about it early on and figuring out, if you can't talk to the physicians, who can you speak with to get the guidance and the support that we individually need. I think that's really important. I'm gonna move on. Would you
Yeah.
tell me your comments before
Yeah.
we move on, Mike?
Well, real quickly, one thing that has come up in our family is countries have many different types of religions and cultures that play into this as well, personally. So that being said, just the sheer pride of the individual and what they want to accomplish, everybody is different, everybody is going to react to the same disease differently. So being a personal thing, the most promising thing you can give to your siblings or children or friends. Okay, and I say friends because we've just gone through a number of them. Thinking how to get through this like we're discussing today just enforces more thought and brings it out so that you can discuss it with your family and friends. So that it becomes a little easier. I don't think it'll ever be easy, but it will be a little easier to work through and make those decisions for yourself. And then, in so doing, you're teaching everybody down the road or next to you. I mean, the things that I've taken out of this meeting alone has made a difference. And I think that
Communication.
makes- Communications
Yeah. Really
is
big.
paramount, absolutely.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next prompt. My physicians need to know my philosophy and values around life, death, and suffering in order to help me set goals for my end of life.
yes.
I
Yeah.
think we were just saying
Yes.
those exact same things, you're absolutely right.
All right, well, who went to their physician and started to have this conversation?
Well, is that where the advanced directive comes in? Because
Yes.
that's where you
That's a
leave it.
start.
And
Yes.
if you've,
I would think.
you
How
know,
many
gone-
people were handed an advance directive by their physician? And at what age were you when they did that?
47.
47?
Wow.
Wow.
Actually, I wasn't handed it. I made a will, and I chose it myself.
Yes, so that's a different pathway.
Yeah.
as
I
I
was
did
probably,
too.
And you did with the writing of your will.
Yeah.
And David?
I was probably 75 when I filled one out, and that's probably about when I did
A will.
yeah.
So did the physician hand you an advance directive to complete?
Yeah,
Yes.
I
Okay.
mean, it's not very much, it's just,
No, it's just the process, and so
Yeah.
I'm checking in about that. Jean?
No, we took it upon ourselves as we watched various family members have issues, and it's like, well, a big thing for me is I wanna be in control of what happens or doesn't happen, or, you know, I may be unconscious, but I want things done my way.
Mhm.
I don't know what that says about
Yeah, I
me.
think I was 65 and they asked if I wanted one at the doctor's office. And I took a class, a senior college class, about, basically what it meant, what options you had for answers and all of that. But I have a question. You said a private physician is the only one that can assist with,
End of life,
right, so that would be nobody affiliated with Maine Med or
right.
Or any group,
any group.
which we're
So-
all in.
There's a group of physicians that have a palliative care practice in the area, but in order, and so they can help from the perspective of palliation and hospice, but there's a subgroup of physicians that are helping in this domain that are outside of Maine Health.
But you would have to be signed up with them. I
Right.
mean, you wouldn't be waiting until you were, in need of that. You would have to be signed up with them.
Your physician would direct you to them.
So that would be okay, that would be acceptable, but
Yeah.
you don't even know them.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I see, okay,
Oh,
because
so
I
you would
had
get
been a little
referred.
worried.
Yeah, me too.
It'd be
I
like
was worried.
referral, yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
referral to a specialist.
All right.
yeah.
But I think there's probably more flexibility in most physicians for that. I actually believe that taking care of pain is one way of dying,
Mhm.
you know.
and allowing yourself to go because you took too much morphine.
Mhm.
And I think many physicians will go along with that.
Well, however, because of the way your neurotransmitters work, if someone let's say you had cancer, or let's say you had really bad lumbar stenosis, and you were already taking an opioid, so your receptors are used to those opioids. So now the dose that it's going to take for you for your respirations to stop is much higher. But if the person's not taking an opioid, then I agree, it's simple. But it's the things that can happen between here and there that end up mucking up the water that make that a simple process.
Good point.
Sort of legally also, correct?
You know, but to the doctor's point here,
Right,
I think physicians for always have helped people die. I don't think there's any question about that. I think it has become more complicated because the patient-physician relationship has now been usurped by the organization that owns the physician.
Yeah.
The process of helping someone die, though, is different than doing death with dignity. That's like saying, I'm going to go into this box and sign up to die this way. Not eating, not drinking, overdosing on benzodiazepines and opioids. It's a very reasonable way to die. But only if you have a working relationship with that physician and the physician understands your your opioid tolerance.
I'd like to make two more points. One of them is the need for siblings to agree. And we saw that happen in our family where my brother wanted my mother to live forever, and my sister and myself wanted to honor her advance directive. The second point is the need for teamwork among the physicians, because often specialists are involved. And to the degree that specialists want to have their say as to what gets done next or how much, you need to identify somebody to be captain of the team that takes care of you.
That's a really good point and very complicated sometimes. Yeah.
And how do you do that? How do you choose your team leader?
I think you generally turn to your primary care doctor.
But these days, that's a little
Yeah.
off-putting in the sense that, you don't build a relationship anymore with your primary care.
I
I'll
would
say.
say that these days, you turn to the healthcare proxy, and if that person, if in their advance directive, they can no longer represent themselves, then whoever they have designated as being their decision maker, that's the person who decides the team. That's the person who says, this is what my parent, my sibling, my spouse, this is what they wanted. And from that point, the show is created. And then, and creating that healthcare proxy to really feel capable and be able to represent you, I think doesn't happen overnight. You have to be in an agreement for quite a while.
Doesn't that, so the healthcare proxy, is that the same as a medical power of attorney?
Yes.
Okay.
The only reason I don't use that term is because, as you know, in your will, there's the general power of attorney.
Right.
And it's very easy for it to get mucked up.
Yeah, well,
So healthcare proxy is different words than a general power of attorney. Healthcare power of attorney,
we always
it's
said
like one word difference. you
legal
know?
power of attorney and medical power of attorney.
Yeah.
Sort of how
But
we-
they're
Yeah.
entirely different.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you were gonna choose your doctor to be the team leader, would you let him know? Would you speak to him at an appointment and say, are you willing, or would you be willing to be the lead in this directive that I'm writing?
So I'm going to normalize my answer to what all of the listeners would agree with the right words. And so a healthcare team now is not just physicians, and I'm not saying you're saying that. And not all physicians are males, and I'm not saying that you're saying that. I'm just trying to normalize it so it's all. So as if I'm the patient or the healthcare proxy, I am going to say, I'm going to contact the person that I feel most connected to for the care, the person who seems to be most congruent with what my person wants. And I'm going to say, from your perspective, if this is what my mom wants, who do you think should be on that team? Who do I need to communicate with? And you know what? It's never all neat and tidy, right?
Yeah.
It's like, so you don't have to worry about getting it all figured out at once because it's not like that. And usually it's the CNA that you most need to talk to, the person that's right there next to the person. But the physician usually is going to be very agreeable with whatever. Absolutely, let me see what I could do. And then you say, okay, well, how about I'm going to make sure you do that. I'll call too. So you have to go the extra mile.
Well, I also see them as the liaison with, we'll just use family members, that whoever that person is, the lead of that, is also the liaison with your family. And I think the relationship that you've built, which is why I went back to the primary care, which sadly now doesn't come along with that kind of a relationship that has knowledge beyond your physical knowledge. Sadly, I think that's a big loss. But
Yeah.
anyway,
That's a good point.
yeah. I'll just use myself, and I'm, a specialist that I see that I've been seeing for quite a while, who I have great respect for. Who we're on a page, the words flow easily. The sort of I get it, and I think immediately, well, that would be the perfect one, because also as a communicator to my relatives and family, he'd be the one, just as it happens to be. As you said, though, it doesn't have to be a doctor. It could be a friend, or, but that's, I'm just thinking ahead to that. I need to go back and look at that document, because I was 65, I think. When
You should totally be updating.
I need to update it, right.
Yeah. Dave, you were going to say something?
Yeah, one of the other things that comes to mind, and Peter, you alluded to it, is not all the siblings or friends, relatives, will be in agreement with what the person who has decided this is how I want to do my life. You can't listen to the other people because there's too many emotions involved. And emotions and discussions are the only way to get through those. So.
Yep, good point.
Maybe a little vodka or bourbon or something.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
This is true.
so let's move on to the third prompt. Does anyone have anything else they want to say to conclude with that second prompt?
May
Okay,
I please have some more water?
yes, you may.
I just want to say that we were so blessed with the position that my parents had. It was a longtime friend, it was a PCP, back before there was a PCP, a personal friend. They had this wonderful relationship. He also was willing to, you know, take our calls any time of the day or night. And I look around now and I said, I don't think there are those relationships like that
Oh,
anymore.
that's a big
But
loss.
he held our hand every step of the way, sort of told us what to expect, what was reasonable, about comfort care, about the process of dementia, and what, again, a gift and a
Tremendous
blessing.
gift.
It's like a doula, huh? You know,
Yeah,
like you have a
exactly.
doula to help you have a baby.
It was a
And there
death.
are death doulas now. There are
Right.
death
Yes.
doulas.
Yeah.
He was like a death doula. And one time, I even called him. He was sailing out on Lake Erie someplace, and I was having a breakdown. And his wife patched me through to his boat.
Ah, right,
Mm.
right.
And I think about my own PCP, and it's like, that ain't gonna happen.
And that's not happening, right.
They don't have time for that now.
No, they
the
don't.
insurance
The
company.
they they're talking about will be you someday, so it's up to you to be different.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, don't
Okay.
be sorry, that's a very valid point,
It
All
just
right.
didn't happen.
yes.
So here's prompt 3. I want my physicians to take the time to do a thorough physical exam when they see me, at least once a year, if not more often.
I'll start.
Please do.
I would like to make a couple of points. One is that situations change, and therefore you have to be aware of that and have to be cared for more often than just when you feel like it or when your physician feels like it. Secondly, people change their minds about things, and so you have to be in constant contact with a physician to do that. But I want to be very careful to not have a physician who forces me to improve my lifestyle. It's one thing, I would make the differential between teaching and preaching.
Yeah.
I want to be taught, but I don't want to be preached to. I want to give just an example of that. I have a specialist who insists, because he doesn't drink, that I shouldn't. So,
Time to replace
That's
him.
enough said there.
This jury says otherwise.
I got a wife like that. Although she does drink, she just thinks I shouldn't.
I'll just close on saying, I want to relate a song tidbit that I really like by Mary Gauthier, who's a Americana singer. And she had a lyric that went, fish swim, birds fly, daddies yell, mamas cry, old men sit and think, I drink.
We gotta love it.
Ah, that's a good one.
That's great.
Oh, my God.
I know, we're teaching these kids that'll listen to all this, I mean, should be careful.
I don't think it's a make break at this rate we're talking about.
I think the only precept I'd put to that is with your friends.
Good
Yeah.
point. Could you say
Yeah.
more to that, Mike?
Good point.
Well,
Some people are introverts and some people are extroverts. You just gotta consider that.
I have a couple of very dear friends, and Margot will probably attest, that are quite introverts, but when they get a musical instrument in their hand, are totally two different people.
Yeah.
And I think we all will agree that our family and friends that we hold the dearest are the ones that we do the craziest things with most of the time. I think there's a little saying about that, about sitting in jail with a good friend, having come down to bail you out, or a real good friend who's sitting there next to you going, what a hell of a ride. So, that being said, as wonderful it is, like sitting out on your deck over here, watching the Ospreys or the Eagles, alone and quiet, especially in a beautiful snowstorm, or sitting there playing some music and having a couple dozen friends, 3 o'clock in the morning, going, what's gonna be for breakfast? You know,
Right.
best of both worlds. So enjoy it. It's a short ride, tomorrow's not gonna be another dress rehearsal, so enjoy it.
Good point.
It's funny to me that we all have, you know, if you think that human beings have been around for thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, and we're at this point where talking about death as a society is just coming into its own. And the only reason I can think of is technology and communication is just, we're bombarded by this reality. And because of science and medicine, they've figured out how to keep all our parts working, but they haven't really looked up to see what will that mean? What will that create in the human being? What sort of anxiety and tensions do they now have to manage and discuss? So here we are.
Because of
That's
it,
not new.
in spite of it.
In the centuries in the past, death was quite early in life, as we know it today. And because of society being prim and proper, we've forgotten how to communicate life. The hard parts of life of, you know, taking care of your farm, your animals. Some animals are meant to be eaten, some animals are meant to be petted, some are both, you know, and life is going to come and go, no matter what we do or say, or what anybody does. So, it's cyclic. We have some wonderful cultures that take care of their elderly, like, you know,
Denmark.
Native Americans.
Denmark, for
Native
instance, where you
Americans.
have Native Americans, where age is an honor. I mean, if I even had an inkling I was gonna live this long, I probably would have taken better care of myself. And that's an old joke, but it's very true, you know, as you know. So,
But I think the thing that you're speaking to, which is so profound, is that in these different cultures, Native Americans, it was a way of life. I mean, family
Exactly.
gathered. It wasn't like, hey, I'm not in the
Yeah.
mood, I got a class and I gotta, you know,
Yeah.
our society is so different now, and there are these controversial positions that people take. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, somebody says, this is what I want, it's on paper, and somebody's willing to challenge that.
it's
Knowing-
said, we have to put it on paper.
Right. So in those days, they gathered around, gears got shifted. That was the
Yeah.
priority, and that was the comfort for those
Yes.
that were leaving us. That was
And
the
the
comfort.
privilege for those that got to do it.
And the privilege
Because
for
don't
those.
forget, that is a privilege.
Yes, because they got to do it together.
Yes,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it
I'm
was
gonna
the
do
last
so-
thing they could do.
I'm looking at Oren, who's going to probably say we should maybe bring closure to the videotaping part of this.
Yep.
And I want to be able to finish this part of the discussion. But I just want to say, for the sake of the film part, thanks very much to all of you. I think that if we did this a lot, it would be so natural and beneficial to all of us and our families. And I hope that we can all continue to think about the conversations we've been having. And I just want you to know that you're going to influence, I'm going to cry, 180 people by having this conversation.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we're here for?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
That's right.
Will you be on my team?
Well, yeah, thanks for giving
Yeah.
us the opportunity.
No, it's an honor to be
Yeah,
a part
thank
of this.
you.
I am like so grateful.
Yes.
Norse and Vikings kind of stuff. I'm thinking about just putting me on a boat, setting the
Oh,
boat on fire and sending me to the Valhalla, you
uh-huh.
know? And it was cool. It was what everybody, you know, that was,
I always said a bed of moss under a great big root of a tree with a view of the ocean.
Yeah.
I'll just climb into my moss bed and gaze out and fall asleep in my moss bed.
How about you, David?
I don't care what happens to me, they throw me on the compost pile.
recycled barn.
So are we